Is up, everybody? This is going to be a relatively short video today. It's the last song on my album Portsmouth. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Portsmouth real quick before I actually get into the song. So if you want to skip ahead this part where I just ramble on because you just want to hear the music, that's fine. I'll leave a link either in the comment section where you can click on it and skip ahead. Or I'll just put on the screen here what time mark you can skip ahead to. But this album was very unique, okay? It's unique because it's my first legitimate all-instrumental album. When I wrote this, I was going through some really weird... I was going through a very weird time. My thought process was not where it should have been. And I was struggling and dealing with a lot of things I wish that I didn't deal with, right? Now, I know everyone does, so I'm not the only one. So I'm not trying to come off as like I went through the worst time in the world, all that other fun stuff. But it is something that I was struggling with. So it was also the first time that I decided to write an album at the time that I was feeling upset. Okay, a lot of times when I'm going through something and I write a song about that thing, it takes a long time to write a song about it. I usually have to wait till I'm over it or wait till I just don't have the ucky feels anymore, if that makes any sense. So this is the first time I wrote an album in the middle of all that garbage, and it was good because it made the music more epic, but it's also not good because I don't listen to my music anyways once I write it, but this is the last album. This is the last, set of songs I usually go to if I am going to listen to my music, because it's hard to kind of get through. Now, as far as it being instrumental, in some ways, this is the easiest album that I ever wrote, and in some ways, it's the most complicated. It's easy because in the songs like this, there's not much to it, even though it sounds bigger. And then there are other songs called Helplessly We Watched, and it goes on, and I'll explain that in a second too, where it's just a compilation of instruments that make the song go from, small guitars, a couple of guitars, to everything is happening at once, and it kind of fades out. And of course, for these particular songs that were on the Portsmouth album, I'm going to be giving you some backstory as to why I kind of wrote them and things like that. So and maybe not all of them, but like especially the one I just mentioned, I'll give you some backstory to kind of give you the mindset of what was going on in my head and how I dealt with it. As far as the song names go, this is also another thing. I didn't want to write lyrics to this album because I just couldn't. I just couldn't bring the strength up. It wasn't because I was lazy, and usually that's the case, but I just didn't have the energy to write things down. So I decided to write an album that was instrumental, and for the titles, I was going to make them very, very long titles. This song right here, it's called "Looking Back." I still shudder even at the calm sea. A lot of these titles I borrowed from either quotes or if I was reading a book and something kind of stood out to me, like the band As I Lay Dying. The name of the band comes from a book called As I Lay Dying, and I remember reading, I forget what book it was, but in the case of this song, that was a quote that was said by this individual in this book. Looking back, he still shudders, and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy, because this entire album is based off of a past relationship I had and kind of like my dealings with that. And this being the last song, the "Looking Back, I Still Shudder Even at the Calm Sea," kind of relates to like, it's like looking back at the relationship. It's like you're like, oh fuck. Even during the calm sea parts. Now this album, Portsmouth, was recorded in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and a lot of the song names are in reference to ocean. They're ocean references, and the concept came about because I was thinking about how much the ocean can relate to us as human beings, like the terror of the oceans, the fact that the ocean is not predictable, the fact that it looks beautiful in some moments and it looks crazy at other moments. It's just and you never know how these emotions are going to play out. You never know what's going to happen, or even if you're going to survive these emotions. So that's why there's a strong correlation, because I lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, by the sea. And then, the song names correlating with the ocean itself. I mean, it all just made sense to me at the time when I wrote it. And so that's kind of like the story behind the album. That's the story behind the music and why I put it together. It's not like I'm being innovative here, to be honest with you. I know, this huge idea came to me because of a song by Cloud Kicker. I forget the name of the song, but it's on the album Subsume. And if you look at that album, you'll see. There was one song that sounded so epic and heavy. It was called. It kind of went by the name of "A Storm Front Was Stalled Out in the Pacific," and then it goes on. It's a long worded song like mine were in this, but for some reason that struck something with me. Just the fact that you could actually title your songs with a sentence or a paragraph, because it heightened it heightened the intensity of the song for me, versus if you just called a song like, Angel or whatever, So a lot of thought went into this, but at the same time, a lot of laziness went into this too. Because again, this was a struggle. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started on this song. It's called Looking Back. I Still Shudder even at the Calm Sea. It's the very last song on my album, and on my album Portsmouth, and it kind of wraps everything up, because like I said before, as you're reading the track titles to all my songs, it goes through a lot of chaos, and this song it's like the indication, hey, I'm walking away and I'm looking back, and even the good times are really fucking horrible. And so here we go. As you can tell, this is not a very big song. In fact, this song ends right here at about the 5.5 minute mark. Okay, so if you look, I have a set of drums, which, by the way, I made 2 changes to this song. Actually, I'm not going to mess with the bass just yet, but one of the changes I made to the song, just for this video, are the drums. I had to actually make the drums a different setting for reasons I've stated in my past videos. Pro Tools is newer, plugins outdated, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't sound much different from the album, but this is what you have with the drums. So, as you can tell, and as you'll probably see with a lot of my music on the album Portsmouth, the songs build up and build up. That was the experimental side of Portsmouth. I wanted the songs to build up and build up and build up. And so, as you can see, everything starts off small and it gets bigger and bigger. The same thing happens with the drums in this particular song. I don't do it with every song, but just this one. You already heard the slow part, and then it starts to dig in with this. If you're wondering what I just did, I took off the kick sub, and I also took away the top hit on the snare mic, on the virtual snare mic in Superior Drummer. I noticed that the snare tends to be very, very poppy, and a lot of times in my mixes I have to tame down that snare. So I'm just doing it for now. When you hear the song from here on out, the snare is going to sound very weak. But again, like I always say, this isn't a mixing tutorial video. This is how my song was put together video. So, I apologize in advance for the snare not being in your face, but that's just the way it goes. This song picks up a little bit more, I think, right here with the drums. And then the next few measures, I think it changes. any changes that happen are usually just extra tom fills and things like that. I wanted to add those just to kind of break up the monotony. But then the song ends with the drums going back to the original setting. And that's what you have. I kind of want to preface something too. In Pro Tools, you have something called either pre-fader or post-fader metering. But you also have the same thing that applies to send tracks, aux sends. And with this particular song, if you look right here, I decided to make all the faders pre-fader. And I can make a video if anybody really wants to know, and there are videos out there on YouTube. But basically, how this affects you, the viewer, and me, the presenter in this video, is I have to mute the actual the fader, because otherwise I can mute or solo a track, and this sound's still going to come through because it's in pre-fader metering. And an example of that is I'll go ahead and mute all my other pre-faders, but if I play the drums and let's say in this track, this track is still pre-fader and I didn't mute it, this is what you're going to hear when the drums are still, again, I'm soloing the drums, I'm not soloing the guitar track, but you're still going to hear it. And if I mute that, you won't hear it at all. Again, I can make a video on that. It's not what I'm going to do here. I just wanted to let you know if you hear extra noises coming through, that's why. So the song basically starts off with this intro guitar. Admittedly, this guitar goes on a little bit longer. I think it goes on an extra measure. And so I'm not going to fix that. It is what it is. It's rock and roll, baby. Anyways, that was a dumb joke. Okay, here we go. This is the guitar by itself when it first comes in. And actually, let me skip over because this guitar actually fades in, so you're not going to hear it at first. You can see the fade in. So if I were to start at the beginning, you wouldn't hear anything. So this is the song. This is the guitar. It's the same guitar riff throughout the entire song. I do some volume changes when everything picks up. You can see it's a little lower. It goes a little bit lower, but this is the riff. And by the way, this riff, the inspiration to this entire song came off of this riff and the guitar settings that I had, so pretty unique. And that's it. So the next thing that comes in, it's this little beacon. Remember, my whole brain was on the ocean at this time, so this is like kind of a beacon, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it, but this is what this sounds like by itself. And that's what you have. So now we're starting to stack onto this song. I did take it out of the middle section of the music because although you couldn't necessarily hear it when everything was happening, it was distracting. I had a few listeners, including my girlfriend, listen to this and tell me that was the one aspect of the song that was kind of irritating. The fact that this kept going on and on. Even though I couldn't really hear it when everything else was happening, the fact that it was still there, it could have made it so other sounds couldn't really fit in the mix well. So I just took that part out and had it come back in at the end. But now what you have is the bass comes in. Just like everything else, the bass does not do much. And I'll play everything in a second. You'll hear how it comes in. I forgot to say it, but if you haven't listened to this song yet, go to aloststateofmind.com and check everything out. This song is called, again, it's called Looking Back, I Still Shudder, Even at the Calm Sea, and it's on the Portsmouth album. And here's the bass. And that's it. So now what happens is when everything is all together with the drums and the bass and the guitars and that little beacon sound light, you have for the next, the next few measures, actually right down here, for the next few measures, you have just those elements coming in. Now, I'm going to just kind of skip ahead because I want to show you something. Once everything picks up, the drums, the bass, guitars, and the beacon, another element gets added to the mix. Now, if you look right here, everything's still there, but I take out the beacon and I add this guitar right here. It's just kind of my way of, instead of turning down an element, I'm actually completely removing it. Okay, so let me play the first part of where everything comes in with the drums, the bass, the guitars, and let you hear what that sounds like. So the drums do change right when these guitars pick up, and it's because it's starting to build up the song. It's starting to make everything kind of go a little bit faster. So I played it before, but these are the drums again soloed. Now you have a cymbal playing at pretty much twice the speed as the rest of the drum kit. I'm not a drummer, so I can't really give you all the correct information as, the correct lingo rather, but everything's starting to pick up with that I think hi-hat sound. But what gets added into this song is this guitar riff, which by itself sounds very unique, but it seems to kind of change as it's thrown into the song. It's kind of the same idea as adding a drone note to any type of scaling system. You play the major scale against a certain note, it could change the way the major scale sounds. And I feel like this is kind of like one of those deals. But these are the guitars by themselves. And these are the guitars right here. Now, if I play that with everything else that we've all already heard, this is what this guitar sounds like with the rest of the mix. Try to pick this out of the mix if you can. All right, and there are two other elements to this song that aren't drone elements. The drone elements, I'm not going to go into too much detail except to say that they just make their usual droning noise. I'll play them real quick so you can hear them kind of by themselves. So here are the first two drone notes. They're panned 75 to the left and right, and these next two right here are pinned 37 to the left and the right. So just keep in mind, this isn't, to create these drone notes, you need an EBow, and all they are, they're just there to create atmosphere. So this is the first one. And then when the second one comes in, it sounds like this. And that's this guy right here. Actually, it's these two drone notes right here. I had to take the group setting off. So here we go with this drone note. Now, all together, these are what the drone notes sound like right before the second one's kick in. And that's really all there is to the drone notes. There's not much, and don't worry, I'm going to play the rest of this song from this point on, so it's you'll be able to hear everything within context. So what we have so far is the drums, the bass that doesn't really change except for the end, but it still doesn't change; it just rings out. The main riff guitar right here, and then you have your that weird sounding guitar just played for you. And then, of course, you have the drones that come in. The last two things are these two guitars right here. So this is the first one that comes in. I'm going to mute all of the sends and returns so that way nothing bleeds in. But this is what you have for this guitar right here. And that's pretty much it. And the last thing that comes in, it's also a drone, but I would call it more of a solo drone, as it doesn't just make one noise. I kind of move my fingers around the fretboard, and that would be this right here. And so that's that. You don't have a lot going on with this song. So I've already done sort of a review, so I won't do that again and bore you. You already know what the elements are, but let me go ahead and play it. Actually, I'll play it right before this first additional guitar comes in, and I'm just going to let it play throughout the song so you can hear what happens. But if you want to hear the whole song mixed in the way that I mixed it originally, again, go to aloststateofmind.com, go to the album Portsmouth, and download the very last song on the album. Looking back, I still shudder even at the ComC. And again, thank you for your continued support, and I'll play this and I'll say some last words and we'll be done. Had to turn down the drums a little bit there. Sorry about that. that's that. That's you could as you could probably tell, I was running around trying to turn up volume and trying to make everything kind of fit. Like I stated already, I wanted to tame the cymbals on the drums. These aren't the original drums or the drum settings that I had for the song that's on the album. They were kind of too loud. I wanted to pull them away so it wasn't going to distract you from the rest of it. Again, this isn't a mixing video. It's a this is how the song works video, and so it means I have to move things out of the way so you can hear other elements of the song coming in. So that's about it. I hope you all have a great day or night, and check out my website and just be cool. Thanks for watching.